Good afternoon, and welcome to the Utilities Committee of Troy City Council. We're having a committee meeting today. It's Monday, July 27th. It's 6:10 p.m. My name is Doug Tremblay, and to my left is Bill Twiss. We're the committee members here today, and we're to provide a recommendation concerning our communications system for the whole city of Troy, voice, internet, and the whole thing.
The whole thing.
So if you will give us some details for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You might recall that earlier this year, late last year, when we talked about the budget, actually over the last 12 to 18 months, we had been talking about some of the communications, namely Channel 5, public access, at which time we provided you with either a 5 or 10 capital plan regarding our information technology, state, where we are, what we would be looking at, what our long-term needs were. One of which was probably amongst the highest priorities was our rather archaic telecommunications system. We have a couple of actually patched together systems. Actually, several of them that range anywhere from 16 to 20 years plus old. We've had some discussions with Frontier, who does some of our work for us right now, a lot of our work actually, related to telecommunications, about consolidating, integrating, and coming up with a new state-of-the-art system to replace the system that we have in place. I do have to apologize. There's a misprint in the recommendation part of it. We are actually asking, when you take into consideration the entire data networking, voice, long distance, and phone equipment, we're asking for authorization for the 12 months for $240,000, not $150,000. The reappropriation amount would still be $137,250. I used a net number as the 150 because we do have almost $200,000 in annual costs just from that system that we have in place. So the net difference, the reappropriation amount is still the $137,250. As I mentioned, we have several subsystems. The oldest one is 20 years old. We contract with 4 different companies, including Frontier. It's not a very efficient arrangement. We are in need of replacing our phone equipment. That would be redundant. It is technologically obsolete. Frontier can do the entire solution for us. This is a state bid product, so this is not a special contract. They did go through a formal bidding process through the state of Ohio, and in fact they are offering us pricing that is lower than the state, which legally they are allowed to do, and of course we'd be somewhat foolish not to accept if any vendor came under state bid. In the memo, I will not reiterate unless you want me to explain, at least 7 benefits to upgrading. Number 1, we are in need of upgrading the system. We do enhance our security. We will save the near-term, near-term additional costs that we'll be able to avoid by being able to consolidate several servers in the department, so we won't have to replace that equipment. Let's see. Rick Oak is in the audience, our MIS manager. If you have any more of the technical whiz-bang questions that I no doubt will be unable to answer. Again, we are requesting authorization of the $240,000, and that will span 2 budget years. But we do need to acquire the phone equipment up front. We had two options. I believe I explained it in the memo. One, we could have lease purchased over 10 years, or we could buy the equipment up front. The difference in cost to us would be approximately $40,000 if we spread it out over 10 years. Mr. Stickle has advised that we do have $359,000 unencumbered in Fund 447, so we can more than cover the upfront costs, thus saving us the $40,000, which we will be able to use elsewhere. We are not requesting emergency legislation.
Bill, did you have any further questions of Mr. Titterington?
Just clarification, that's going to be for all city departments across the staff, all city staff, all city buildings, all buildings?
Yes.
Okay. And is that going to provide us more data capability? Is it increasing the amount of data? How much increase is there in data?
Mr. Oak would love to explain all that to you. But please cut him off after a little while,
just
will you?
briefly. I mean, what's the increase in data that will help with the benefit of the system, making it all one?
Richard Oak, I'm the MIS manager for the City of Troy. We currently, the most bandwidth we have now is here in Police Department. That's 35 meg down, 5 meg up. What the Frontier system would bring us is 200 meg down and 200 meg up. That would be shared throughout the 12 facilities. And there's also on top of that a 250 meg by 250 meg private network, which would also carry our voice over IP phone system that Mr. Titterington was referring to. So there is QoS, quality of service, built into that. So I got 4 surveys back, one from police chief, another one from the Service and Safety Director, Marion, Ohio, police chief from Wilmington, and they sang the praises. They have the Frontier system, they've had it for some time, love it. They said their calls are crystal clear, and anytime the rare occasions when they've had an issue, Frontier's been right there on the spot and they took care of it. If it required an equipment change, they changed the equipment. So yes, along with getting rid of our antiquated phone systems, we're also going to have basically what makes all of the servers and desktops and laptops and cell phones when they're on the wireless and so forth. That's what makes it all work. Okay. And it's going to be a huge boon. Also, the streaming, like what we're doing right now with this meeting, will be much smoother, and because we're on the ragged edge right now, being able to stream.
That's what I was trying to.
So basically, we're going to have more security, and the whole city will then be integrated together.
Right. The more security comes in the respect that right now we've got 12 different Roadrunner accounts that are all a possible point of intrusion. Okay. And if you look at our Cisco server and our firewall in the basement, we get pings from Russia, we get them from China, we get them from all over the place, people knocking on the door using default Linux passwords and usernames and so forth to try to get in. So we are constantly under attack just like everybody else is. Having one point in the basement here where all of the internet is tied in allows us to monitor that more closely and have a better, there's 11 less points of incursion than we could have.
I guess the question I have is the initial $240,000 that covers the acquisition of the equipment and the service for 2 years?
For 1 year.
For 1 year, service for 1 year.
Yeah, for 12 months, okay. Which as professional services contract, you won't have to do any of the reauthorizations or anything like that. It spans 2 budget years.
Okay.
Because we're not starting January 1st.
What would be the service amount? It's the 12-month service
The
average.
service
then, going
amount
forward?
is actually
Is that in there?
approximately the same as it is now. It's spread a little differently between the data service, voice service, and long distance. but the increased cost per year is approximately $6,500
For a lot more.
for a lot more,
For way
yes,
more. Okay.
in the integration.
All right. That's all I have.
Any other members of council have any questions? Mr. Phillips?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Titterington, the total appropriation of $240,000, is the reappropriation request of the $137,250, is that still the figure?
Yes.
And for Mr. Oak, I want to commend you for all of the information that you disseminate. I know that we, as council members, receive on the fishing and the other items that come up, so you're very proactive on that, and I want to commend you for that.
Thank you.
Hopefully, the employees take advantage of that and listen.
They do. We got a good group of people here.
Good, excellent. With this new equipment, outside of the building, and I know people drive by, they'll pick up signals and such. Will this enhance our security level with that sort of thing from somebody on the outside of the building?
Are you talking
wire-
about Wi-Fi
Or
service?
Wi-Fi signals and any other intrusion that somebody could do outside the building?
That's really taken care of by the local firewalls.
Okay.
Okay, so, yeah, I mean, we have that lockdown tied with the Cisco equipment that we have at the different facilities and so forth, so they would have to get through those firewalls just like they would have to get through them now.
And the existing softwares that we're using is still going to be compatible with all of this equipment?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of council, Madam President, staff? What's your pleasure?
Move forward.
Let's move forward with this. It's unanimous. Is there anything to come before Utilities Committee? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.